Build your city from early pre-industrial stages all the way to full industrialization in my city. Thank you for joining us today at Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Melissa Delp.
And I'm Kevin Delp. My City is a legacy tile-laying game for 2 to 4 players designed by Reiner Knizia and published by Kosmos, and they sent us this copy to review.
The legacy game has 8 chapters with 3 games in each chapter, so that's a total of 24 episodes. We've played all of them, but we're going to keep this video as spoiler-free as possible.
There's also a non-legacy game in the box called the Eternal Game. We're going to talk about that first.
Now, the Eternal Game does use some rules and components from the legacy version, things that you unlock in the first few chapters of play, but we're not going to go too much into detail. Each player has their own board flipped to the non-legacy side and a set of personal building tiles. Each player's tiles are the same.
In the middle of the table is a shuffled deck of cards that match those building tiles. Each round, a card is flipped, and all players place the matching tile on a grid spaced on their board.
The first tile must touch the river, and then future tiles need to touch a tile that's already on your board.
If you decide to pass and not place a tile, you lose a point, but you can continue building your city in future rounds.
So you might want to pass if placing a specific building tile is going to mess up your plans for another building tile, or if the placement is going to cause you to lose points in the final scoring. Also, if you're content with the city that you've built up to that point, you can decide to permanently stop building. You'll ignore the rest of the cards that are flipped, and you won't lose points for not building those tiles.
If you decide to do that, you cannot jump back in to add another tile to your board. Play continues until all the cards have been flipped or all players have stopped building.
And then you go into final scoring, and you'll earn points based on certain groupings of building tiles and where you've placed them on your board. For uncovered trees, you gain points, and for uncovered rocks and empty spaces, you lose points.
There are more specifics for scoring, but those details get into some of the components and rules that you're going to unlock during the Legacy campaign.
Yeah, I would say the Eternal Game is a nice, quick tile-laying game. You have that simultaneous play. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes. It reminds me of games like Karuba, Scarabia, Number 9, some roll and writes, where everyone starts off the same and gets the same things each round, but based on their different choices, their final boards look completely different.
And the games themselves will be different just depending on how those cards flip.
Now let's talk about the Legacy campaign. It plays similarly to the Eternal Game, but every 3 games has its own chapter that centers around a different stage in the city's development. For each chapter, you'll open an envelope that gives the special rules and components for the 3 episodes in that chapter.
You also play on the other side of the board. Based on your score and other objectives, you'll be filling in progress symbols which determine the winner of the campaign. As the games progress, you'll be adding stickers to the board.
Now, sometimes those stickers have to go in a specific spot, but other times you can choose where to place them, and those decisions will directly impact where you want to place some of your tiles compared to other people.
And of course, depending on the rules, you might be going after one objective and other players might be going after something totally different.
Yeah, the rules start off pretty basic, and you will continue to add to them during the campaign, but they never get too complex.
The rule sheets are small and fit into each of the envelopes for all the different chapters.
So each game lasts about 30 minutes, and I would recommend that you play all 3 games in a chapter in one sitting because the rules, the scoring, the theme are all going together.
And you really need to play the campaign with the same group of people. I'm sure there's rules to bring people in, switch people out, but the experience is going to be a lot better if you play with the same group of people from start to finish.
Yeah, I like how your board changes throughout the campaign. There are some built-in catch-up mechanics. Usually the winning player is going to get some progress points, but also a sticker that might not be as helpful for
Sure.
future games, whereas some of the losing players might get a sticker that actually is beneficial and helpful for future games.
And without spoiling anything, I really like the middle chapters. The game starts to do some new and exciting things around chapters 4 and 5.
Now, you're not going to rip up anything in this game. You are going to do a lot of writing, marking on things, and placing lots and lots of stickers. So hopefully you're pretty good at aligning stickers on your board.
You do need to be careful when punching tiles out of the boards. We had a couple tiles that were coming apart.
So you might think that 24 games gets a little
lot of games.
repetitive since you're basically playing the same shapes on your board each time. But I didn't really find that to be the case, and we actually played the whole campaign in 2 days, so we played it a lot in a short amount of time. But it's because each game the rules and scoring is changing, and the order that those tiles are coming out is changing each game.
I totally agree. There are many games where I think we were both looking for the right color or the right tile to come out the right time. And that especially happens toward the end of a game when you don't have that much room left on your board.
Yeah, the anticipation
Yes,
is like, oh, is it going to be, I need it to be the next card.
Love that.
There were definitely a few times where I had a specific tile in mind for a specific space on the board, but the tile came early before I had built out to that section, so then I had to rethink my entire plan going forward.
I like the illustrations on the tiles. The top-down view of the tiles work great, and the box cover is beautiful. I love how the buildings are in the shape of the different tiles.
So the legacy aspect of My City was my favorite part of the game. The Eternal game, I think, is fine. It's a pretty light tile laying game, maybe a little more basic and light than I would want for a tile laying game, but I really did enjoy in the legacy version that sense of discovery and building up your city and seeing it change throughout the campaign.
My City is actually one of the nominees for the Spiel des Jahres, the German board game of the year this year. I did a video about all the Spiel nominees and told you which ones I think will win. Check out that video up there.
So I think you would probably enjoy My City if you like tile laying games that use those polyomino Tetris-like shapes. It's a little more complex than Patchwork or Barren Park.
Yeah.
Maybe on par with about Cottage Garden. Not as complex as I Love Cats, and definitely not as complex as something like A Feast for Odin.
Oh, wow, yeah, no. Melissa and I really enjoyed the legacy game for My City. Check it out from Kosmos. And be sure to like and subscribe our channel.
Possible.
There's actually a non-legacy game in this box as well called the Eternal game. And
we're going to talk about that one first.
we can talk about that first. All right, let's do it again. I feel like this is like in my way. So
Right, that's why I was saying, like, what if you
just went further that way?
That's what I wanted to do to begin with. And you said, come to me. And this is being recorded. Is that better?
I like that a little bit better, thank you.